Hi there, I'm David Duncan and welcome to the Golden Years of Hollywood. Well, the musical Showboat, with songs by Jerome Kern and Oscar Hammerstein, signalled an important event in the history of American musical theatre. You see, up to this time, American theatres were filled with operettas, musical revues and light comedies. However, Showboat was a dramatic change, combining musical storytelling in a serious tone with big production numbers. Based upon the 1926 novel by Edna Ferber, it proved to be a massive success when launched on the Broadway stage in 1927, and it wasn't long before Universal Pictures adapted it for the screen in their mostly silent version from 1929. However, it was to be their 1936 production of Showboat that has been hailed by some as being the best film version made, not only because of its superb casting, but because it was the most faithful to the original stage show. Teaming Irene Dunne opposite the brilliant tenor Alan Jones, and including great supporting players like Charlie Wininger, Helen Morgan, Paul Robeson and Hattie McDaniel, it would be hard to think of a better cast for this iconic show. The story, as in the stage play, starts off with the showboat arriving into town with full fanfare, followed by a parade. This then leads to the appearance of Alan Jones as a riverboat gambler who proceeds to romance Irene Dunne to the sound of the hit song Make Believe.
Only make believe I love you. Only make believe that you love me. Might as well make believe I love you. For to tell the truth, I do.
Probably the most famous song from the musical is sung by Paul Robeson in a career-defining performance.
Old Man River, that old man River, he must know something, but don't say nothing. He just keeps rolling, he keeps on rolling along. You and me, we sweat and strain, body all aching and racked with pain. Tote that barge, lift that bale, you gets a little drunk and your land's in jail. I get weary and sick of trying. I'm tired of living and sick of dying. The old man River, he just keeps rolling along.
The hit songs flow as fast as the Mississippi, with Helen Morgan playing the role of Julie, who's the leading lady on the showboat, giving a lesson to Irene Dunne about love and all of its compromises.
Fish gotta swim, birds gotta fly. I gotta love one man till I die. Can't help loving that man of mine. Tell me he's lazy, tell me he's slow. Tell me I'm crazy, maybe I know. Can't help loving that man of mine. When he goes away, that's a rainy day. But when he comes back, the day is fine, the sun will shine. He can come home as late as can be. Home without him ain't no home to me. Can't help loving that man of mine.
Trouble arises when the local sheriff comes aboard after hearing information about an interracial marriage. With Julie having black ancestry, it makes it a crime in the state and forces Julie and her husband Steve to leave the Showboat. With no leading man for the show, they decide to take on Alan Jones's character, Gaylord Ravenel, which leads to romance on the riverboat and eventually marriage. Upon the birth of their daughter Kim, the happy couple leave the Showboat and move to Chicago, and while the cards fall in their favour in the beginning, they live an elegant lifestyle. Luck eventually runs out with Gay hitting a losing streak, which leads him to leaving Magnolia and their daughter, believing that they'll be better off without him.
He can come home as late as can be.
Out of money and work, Magnolia auditions for a role in a show, not knowing that the current lead is her old friend Julie, played by Helen Morgan. Julie realises that the producer doesn't need another singer, so she walks out, leaving the part vacant for Magnolia to fill. It's not long before Magnolia becomes a star, and as years pass, her daughter Kim follows her into show business. She also becomes a star of the stage, which takes us to the emotional finale.
Best of all, make believe I love you. Oh, to tell the truth,
Aren't you the new stage door man? Every time I come in here, I see you watching the rehearsal. Why don't you watch the stage door? That's what you're paid for.
Alan Jones's character is now working at the same theatre as a stage doorman and looks on in secret at his daughter's success.
No mail for me?
No, Miss Ravenel.
If a wire comes for me, will you have it sent right over to my hotel?
Yes, Miss Ravenel.
Thanks. Good night, Pop.
Good night. Good night, Kim.
It's the opening night of Kim's new show, and Magnolia and her parents arrive at the theatre to watch the performance, but also just happen to witness Gay being fired from his position.
Go back to the stage door. And come to the office in the morning and get your pay. You're fired. Yes, sir. Come right in here. This is your box. Yes.
Gay. Gay. Don't you recognize me?
You haven't changed much, Nola.
Oh, I've got to go. I'm minding the stage door.
Oh, wouldn't you like to come in here with us? I think well, this is our daughter's big night.
Sure, why don't you?
There's another Ravenel in the house tonight, Magnolia.
Where you go with me,
There are several other notable performances in the film. Charlie Wininger does a wonderful job as Captain Andy.
And she kills the dirty rascal deader than a doornail. Now that's what you would have seen if it hadn't have been for Mr. Schultz being took and sick when he was.
like the
Helen Morgan, who was in the original Broadway production, has a high point with her rendition of the song Bill.
But along came Bill, who's not the type at all. You meet him on the street and never notice him. His form and face, his manly grace, are not the kind that you would find in a statue.
Now, it's of interest to note that she also made an appearance in the 1929 version of the film, and as mentioned, it was mostly a silent film, but Universal quickly produced a sound prologue that included her rendition of the hit song.
How come beyond you seems natural to me. I can't explain. It's surely not embrace that makes me thrill. I love him because he's, I don't know, because he's just my Bill.
Back in the late 1980s, I had the pleasure of interviewing Alan Jones for my radio show, where he recalled his experiences on the production of Showboat.
Okay, Alan, did you play the role of Gaylord Ravenel on Broadway?
No, I didn't play it on Broadway. I played it in Muni Opera in St. Louis before the picture. And Universal borrowed me from Metro, and I went over to Universal to play with Irene Dunn, opposite Irene Dunn, Paul Robeson, Charlie Winninger, Helen Morgan. Metro made a very good deal out of it because they were paid $100,000 for me to do Universal, and $100,000 was my first yearly salary. So they saved a whole salary on me by loaning me to Universal.
Just wondering, in the film version of Showboat, there were extra songs included, such as I Have the Room Above Her and I Still Suits Me. Can you remember why they decided to add these extra songs for
Well,
the film?
Jerome Kern was there when we were recording, and they felt that they'd like to have a duet for Irene Dunn and myself with the beginning of our romance, and so they wrote the song I Have a Room Above Her. It's a lovely song. It's a good addition to the picture.
Sometimes we meet, she smiles, and oh, her smile's divine. It's such a treat to hear her say, hasn't the weather been fine? I blush and stammer badly, my heart is beating madly. Then she goes into her room, and I go sadly up to mine.
As mentioned, the other additional song, I Still Suits Me, provided a wonderful moment for both Paul Robeson and Hattie McDaniel.
I may be no good for your good. I may be lifeless, but with one wife less, my life would be more strifeless, yes sirree. No matter what you say, I still suits me.
Now, of course, Hattie McDaniel would go on to further success 3 years later with her Academy Award-winning performance as Mammy in Gone with the Wind.
Will you do to know you won't?
Always imitating me and always aggravating me. Then in spite of everything, in spite of all the grief you bring, expecting me to love you too.
No matter what you say, I think you do.
This version of Showboat is looked upon today as an important historical film. That is, a depiction of one of the first Broadway blockbusters that changed musical theatre. But is it still acceptable to look at it as pure entertainment? I mean, I couldn't see it being revived on the Broadway stage today due to its racial depictions and stereotypes, and the scenes early on that involves the characters Julie and Steve and interracial relationships being a crime is really unsettling. For this reason, I think it should just be looked upon as a historical document capturing the wonderful performances of these great artists. I hope you've enjoyed looking back at this classic from the golden years of Hollywood. I'm David Duncan. I'll see you next time.